Alright, the Outcast Engineer is out. The next one up is Kerillian. Since I was pretty accurate with my last estimates, let me try my hand at it again. So if you're unfamiliar with this, I am going to first start with just the general name of the career, then go over the weapons, then the abilities, then the cosmetics. Starting with my first idea, it is the Black Ark Corsair / FLEETMASTER, and they're interchangeable. We've seen that, of course, they like using the hero version of the unit. Starting with the weapons, the first one is the Wicked Cutlass. I don't know what else to say. It's a cutlass. You know, Black Ark Corsairs, their whole shtick is it's kind of dark elf pirates, so a cutlass would obviously fit that. The traits it had would be wide sweep and fast attacks. Because I imagine, you know, cutlass, you slashing around with it pretty fast. I like to think about the stereotypical pirate fights when they're like clashing swords and it's kind of a big long duel. The next one is the Murder Hook. It is literally just a hook. Again, pirates, hook, haha, funny. But for the traits for that, I think would be armor piercing, headshot damage, and ignore shield. Fun fact about the ignore shield ability, the only other weapon in the game that has it is Saltspire's flail. Nothing else. So I think the Murder Hook would be a nice addition to that list. And I ration. It's a hook, you know, and they go to block it, you just use it to hook around the shield and hit them. The final weapon I have is a ranged weapon. I know, a ranged weapon that Kerillian doesn't have, that's not a black powder weapon, and that's the Repeater Hand Bow. Just like its bigger cousin, the Repeating Crossbow, or the Volley Crossbow I think it's actually called. It holds 3 shots, or at least its model does, and I think it would have the traits of fast reload, rapid fire, and close range. And a fun idea I had was that she could maybe even dual wield them. Kind of like how Saltspire and Barden dual wields his Drakefire pistols. Jumping into the abilities, the first one I have is, of course, a passive, and it's Sea Dragon Cloak. Now, in the actual War Scroll itself, it adds 1 to your save die for ranged attacks, so this could be reflected in the game in a similar way where it reduces the damage done by ranged attacks such as a Rattling Gunner or a Warpfire Thrower or the Beastmen Archers. But I understand that ranged fire isn't really that common in Vermintide 2, so it could alternatively block a hit entirely every couple hits, similar to Barden's Gromwill Armor ability. The next passive ability I have is Swashbuckler, which is just a simple increased attack speed for all our weapons. You know, it makes sense because pretty much all of the troops, whether it's Corsair or FLEETMASTERs, have the ability to just increase the number of hit die they're allowed to roll, so it could be reflected as just they can attack faster. Now getting into the active ability, I have named it Have At Them. It's a aura ability that gives all teammates around you increased attack speed. Boring, I know, but if you think about it, Kruber has a similar ability where it just gives them temporary hit points, and that is one of the better abilities. I just think it would be great because when you're being swarmed, and I mean absolutely swarmed, you can pop this ability and just watch as everyone around you just starts flailing into it. Can you imagine this ability partnered with Barden's ability? Imagine an unstoppable dwarf. For the cosmetics, obviously the body would simply be a recolor. It's what they did for the last 2 classes. But for the heads, we have a couple of nice looking options that could be added. We have the Mohawk of the current Age of Sigmar FLEETMASTER, but we also have the regular bat wing type helmet that the Corsairs get to wear, or you have the squid mask that a named character that I can't think of off the top of my head wears. The next career I had was the Loremaster / Archmage. They're actually a very similar unit, so I'm just kind of grouping them together. Starting with the weapons, The first one is an Elven Greatsword, which it's kind of in the game already because we have the Elven or the two-handed sword for Kerillian. So this one might just kind of be a reskin, but who knows? They added the Cog Axe, which I thought would just be a reskin, so who knows? The abilities I thought would be Wide Sweep and Crowd Control. Pretty basic. It's a great sword. It's a big sword. Alternatively, they could add the Seer Staff, which, if it is used as a melee weapon, could be wide sweeps and who knows what else. It's a staff. It's kind of hard to judge. We don't really have many blunt weapons that aren't hammers, so it's kind of hard to judge what traits it would have. But, and this is the interesting part, an alternative to it being a melee weapon is it could be your secondary and it could be a ranged weapon. Well, how is it a ranged weapon? The answer is Arcane Bolt, which is an ability that both the Loremaster and the Archmage can use. And I imagine it could be used very similar to how Sienna uses her magic. You just throw arcane bolts at people, and the more you use it, the more winds of magic you consume. If you use too much winds of magic, it can overwhelm you and, hurt you. Again, it's very similar to how Sienna works, and just like I did with the Rune Lord suggestion, take that magic burden off of Sienna, as she's the only character in the game who has any form of magic really whatsoever. Now, jumping into the abilities, starting with the passives, we have Deflect Arrow. It's another ability that adds a +1 to your save against ranged attacks. So just refer back to what I said about the Sea Dragon Cloak. Either reduced range damage or similar to Gromrail armor, just block a hit every so often. And for the active ability, I have Mystic Shield. A bubble is created around Kerillian that blocks enemies from attacking you, and that bubble is big enough to fit maybe not all of your party members, but a good 1 or 2 of them into the bubble as well. This could be great, honestly, for team play in the higher levels when you really need to pick up your teammate, but doing so would be just absolutely disastrous. We have, of course, Barden with his Ironbreaker ability, which basically is a, hey, look at me, don't look at the person getting revived, look at me, which is also an option, but I feel like this would add another option for those higher level plays. And alternatively, it's just nice. Sometimes when you're really overwhelmed by enemies, if you have this ability stored, you can just pop it and try and get out of that tight situation. It could really be a game changer and a lifesaver. Skipping body cosmetics because obviously it's going to be a recolor. Getting into the head cosmetics, we do have a couple interesting options. The High Elves obviously like their big hats. They're kind of known for it, and so of course all of the hats would be big. But, some of them might have a plume, some of them might have horns, others might just be a big Pope-looking hat. There's plenty of options. Like I said, the High Elves really like their big hats, and I think players will too. Now, ending it off with honorable mentions, we have, unfortunately, the Witch Elves. In my research, I saw a lot of people wanting them, but I just think that they're a little too scantily clad for the game, and Fat Shark probably doesn't want to risk that. It would be really interesting to see kind of a Slayer elf. And the other one is the entirety of the Wood Elves. Now, this might rustle a few feathers, but in my opinion, they just kind of all look the same. Like I tried, I really did. I was looking through, like, okay, we already have the Waystalker, so let's see what these guys look like. Oh, they look like Waystalker with sword. Oh, what about the? Yeah, it looks like Waystalkers with glaives. So, well, they're riding stags, or they're riding eagles, or they're riding something, and they look like Waystalker. And unfortunately, yeah, I can't think of any way to differentiate it via looks. And let's be honest, looks really do play a big part. So, those are my thoughts on what Kerillian's new career might be. Hopefully I'm as accurate as I was last time, even though we didn't get the Trollhammer torpedo. Alright, thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you like my suggestions. If you have any suggestions of your own, go ahead and put them down in the comments. I'd love to read them, and who knows, maybe you'll be right. We'll have to see whenever Fat Shark decides to update us on the game again. Alright, have a wonderful day, guys, and I will see you in the next video. Thank you.